Is NieR Automata better than The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild? It's time for a post-game smoke, where I give a few thoughts on a game as soon as possible after playing it. As is the nature of this type of video, it's short, quickly thrown together, and certainly rides the emotional high or low of whatever game I just finished. I trade in-depth analysis for visceral reaction. Both are important, but I only offer one here. If you're new to the channel, I offer plenty of other, longer, more thought-out videos, so please stay and poke around a bit. I can almost promise you'll find something you'll like. So the credits have rolled on NieR Automata. 7 times, in fact. If you've heard anything about this game, it's likely 3 things. 1, that the game has 26 endings, each represented by a letter from the English alphabet. 2, that to truly beat the game, you must complete endings A through C. And 3, that the game mixes genres like a state fair chef mixes already deep-fried food with a deeper fryer. That meaning impressively, but unnecessarily. Let's first start with the 26 endings. This number isn't as intimidating as it sounds. Most of the endings don't require a full playthrough to experience, and some can even be found accidentally. A couple of times I simply went the wrong direction, only to be greeted by some short story closing text followed by the credits. In fact, one ending can be found simply by removing a specific chip. See, chips are essentially your skill tree perks in this game from your character's inventory. By removing the OS chip, assumedly on the logic that you need the space for something more useful, like shock salves or volt bandages, or I had like 1,000 of them by the end of the game. I never used them once. The logic being that you could replace this OS chip with something more useful, but your character just dies when you do that. End of game, roll the credits, back to the start menu. I always welcome this level of fourth wall breaking. To me, when a creator can stretch the conventions of a genre with such humor and wit, I'm often impressed more than I would be when judging the game's mechanics and gameplay. Maybe I'm a sucker for considering style over substance, and I wouldn't prioritize thusly all of the time, but here, the style informs the substance, so it works really, really well. Some may think, as I did originally, that forcing the player to finish endings A through C, or ending D, you can choose between C and D, is an artificial way to lengthen the game, but what the unacclimated player doesn't discover until the second playthrough has started is that those subsequent endings, B through D, aren't simply replays of the same game. The game is very much a different experience, with different characters, different levels, different set pieces, an entirely different POV in the game's overall narrative. The credits after each playthrough are simply another way to punch through that fourth wall. Think of the player as the Android proxy itself, being reset like a machine, but with firmware intact. The experience of your character may have ended, but the memories of that character, including the experience points you've earned, the weapons, and the items, essentially get uploaded to your Storyline B, then Storyline C characters. This evolution of machine is in fact a very thematically relevant occurrence. A big portion of the game explores the idea that machines, born of humans in the image of humans, have become sentient and have actually evolved over tens of thousands of years. They're machines, so I guess their evolution is abbreviated. I don't know. But what do they evolve toward? Well, they're human creators, of course. The machines attempt to replicate the human behavior learned through ancient books. In one specific instance, you walk into a robot orgy. It's interesting. But what about genre mixing? A mark of true creativity, in my opinion, is taking 2 disparate elements and combining them in previously unfathomed ways. In the world of video games, this mark can also be one of crushing disappointment. Overt genre mixing doesn't often turn out well in video games, but fans of NieR Automata often cite the game's seamless incorporation of varied game genres as its core strength. And I agree that this game does genre mixing better than most other attempts, from top-down shmups to arcade brawlers to 2D fighters to third-person open-world RPGs, even a minor text adventure in there a little bit, and an asteroid clone to some degree. NieR Automata nails all of them. I knew going into NieR Automata that the game has 26 endings. I knew that to truly beat the game, you had to complete 3 or 4 specific endings, and I knew I wasn't going to do any of that. I mean, I've got a backlog of orphan games back there that I have to play, meaning I can't waste dozens of hours on a single game. Well, as it turns out, you orphans. I went into this game thinking I would maybe like it. Now, 35 hours later, I'm imagining how I'll propose. I mean, should I pop the question on a surprise romantic dinner on the roost of a normal Saturday night theater trip? Should I map this elaborate story that won't ever leave us the happiest couple at the party, dry for a small talk opener.
He gave me a ring as we tandem skydived into the Grand Canyon.
What's weird is I cannot fully understand, let alone articulate why I fell so hard for this game. The NPC robots and their attempts to emulate a human society based on ancient books and artifacts is endearing, sure. That alone would keep me interested for a few hours, but it can't be just that. The controls are tight, if perhaps a bit too button mashy at times. The difficulty curve is perfect, and it even allows the player to take on the game overpowered if desired. The overall story, though hard to follow, especially if not familiar with the lore established by previous games in this series, as I was not acclimated, is still incredible. And on that note, I appreciate a storyteller who can hook the player enough to make the player feel like he or she's figured something out. Show, don't tell and all that, I guess. Perhaps craziest of all, NieR Automata has in fact overtaken The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild as my favorite game of 2017 so far. I still love you though. Tell me in the comments if you've played NieR Automata. What did you think of it? And please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to make sure you don't miss future videos. I'm trying to get the average views per video up to about 100 by the end of the year. Sharing this video with your gaming friends helps a lot toward that goal. Thank you so much for watching.